My name is Jean-Francois Gravel. I'm from Montreal, Quebec, and I'm the owner and co-founder of the Brasserie Dieu du Ciel, the brew pub, and the packaging brewery. Quebec is the French part of Canada, so it's the province. Actually, it used to be La Nouvelle-France, so where the French settled down first before being taken over by the British colony. But still, the French culture and the French language survive today, and about 75% of people living in Quebec speak French. We really have like a kind of different culture because we travel maybe more often in France or in the French part of Belgium. We used to have more like a wine culture than the beer culture, but it's changing pretty quickly. Montreal is a pretty lively city. It's always been a place where there was a lot of bar, good nightlife. The craft beer show up on the scene in the mid 80s, but especially with a brewer that was doing pale ale. There was maybe a brew pub, the Cheval Blanc, was start to think outside of the box and create new stuff. Otherwise, it's really Unibrew bring up the Belgian beer into the culture of the craft beer in Quebec. Otherwise, we were for beer importation, we had a lot of beer from Belgium, probably with our roots with the French language, because Quebec and Montreal is like the French part of Canada. Like 75% of people speak French. We were already open to the Belgian style. Slowly, the beer scene really explode, and there's so many brew pub. Everybody's doing his own little thing, so nobody's really in direct competition, and more small breweries opening. It's a brewery that started as a brew pub in 1998. I was a home brewer, and I met Stefan when we were doing our master in microbiology, and he really enjoyed the beer that I was brewing. And as I was dreaming about the brewery, he decided to jump in the boat to start a brewery with me. We decided to do it pretty small to be able to brew not just one style of beer, but many styles of beers, taking inspiration from the British, the German, the Belgian, working with different yeast strains, and slowly we develop our own personality using American hops, special spices, doing a hybrid between two styles, and that's how we become quite unique as a brewer. The brew pub is located directly in Montreal, in the area named the Mile-End on the plateau of Montreal. It's a pretty area, pretty lively, so we have people all week long. The brew pub is a 5 hectoliter system, so it's pretty small batch, so we were able to brew 3 to 4 times a week, so that's how we've been able to manage so many yeast strains at the same time and develop our own recipe and personality pretty quickly. And then 5 years after that, we decided to expand as a packaging brewery. We decided to open up the packaging brewery in the center of a little town named Saint-Jérôme. It's about half an hour north of Montreal. And even with the packaging brewery, we decided to be quite small. So we have a 25 hectoliter brewer house, and we have a 25 hectoliter fermenter, 58 hectoliter fermenter, and we now have a couple of 100 hectoliter fermenter. But still, for a packaging brewery compared to what we see in the US, it's still quite small. So same thing, we can have a large portfolio by playing with different yeast strains, weird spices, and we are able to do a lot of seasonal. So we're not stuck to doing only 1 or 2 or 3 beer, and also as the turnover is quite fast, we make sure that the beer is as fresh as possible. One of the beer that we can show in the U.S. market is Rosé d'Hibiscus. So it's a wheat beer that we infuse a hibiscus flower in it. So it brings a really nice pink red color into the beer, but you have some tartness from the hibiscus and also a really big flowery estery nose. So it's making really refreshing, but still really complex. And that's a beer that can be paired pretty well with a lot of meal. We're also quite well known for our Imperial coffee stout, the Péché Mortel. It's a pretty robust Imperial stout that we infuse a huge amount of coffee, so you really have a big espresso character in that beer, and that's one of the beer that can age quite well actually. But even young, you're gonna have really the coffee up front, well supported with the body of the beer. We also, the Dernière Volonté, our Belgian IPA. That's a beer that we already brewed for almost 7 or 8 years ago. It's a really hoppy Belgian blonde that we dry up massively, so you have big, fresh hop character and aroma with the spicy, fruity character of a Belgian ale. That's one of the beer I really like to have on the patio during the summertime. We also export the Route des Épices. It's a peppercorn rye beer. Pretty complex. You have a spicy character of the rye, and you have the body to support a complex aroma of the green and black peppercorn. It's not super hot. We really focus on the peppercorn aroma. The point is not to burn your mouth, so you just have a little feeling of the peppercorn, but you definitely have the nose of the peppercorn. But yeah, after a pint, you're gonna feel like a little itch on the throat. We also have the Conte du Diable, which is a kind of American IPA, but it's not like a standard American IPA. Now I think people would probably call it a red IPA because it's quite focused on malt and caramel, but it's still pretty hoppy with a big dry hop character from the Centennial and the Amarillo, but it's more balanced with the malt and the caramel malt. We're gonna have soon in the US a beer that we call l'herbe à détourne, which means basically the grass that makes you lost. It's like a New World style triple, so it's a really hoppy triple. It's hop with the citra, so you definitely have the passion fruit, Sauvignon Blanc character of the citra that we use all the way up to be dry up with the citra. So yeah, that's a beer that you start with a small glass, but you're not sure how many glasses you're gonna take because it's pretty drinkable, and the hops make it that you want more. We also have the Aphrodite. It's a cocoa and vanilla stout. We use real cocoa nibs in it to bring it some coffee-ish cocoa flavor in it, and we use real vanilla beans that we infuse into the beer, so it's not like a big bomb of artificial vanilla aroma, so you just have a really complex aroma from the vanilla bean. Really good beer, again for pairing, especially with the dessert, but it can be paired with pretty well with different meat. Pretty tasty beer. We have the Solstice d'hiver, that means winter solstice. It's our barley wine that we released late fall, beginning of winter. It's a kind of hybrid between British barley wine and American barley wine, so it's really malty. You get caramel note and ripened fruit in it, but it's pretty well hopped, so you get good bitterness to balance the sweetness of the malt, and that's a beer that can age a couple of years, develop some port aroma and flavor. It's pretty interesting. We have the Spring Equinox. It's a Scotch ale with maple, so it's a maple Scotch ale. So maple syrup it's kind of caramel made of maple sap. So we figured that it could fit with caramel-focused beer like Riévi style. So we had a generous amount of maple syrup into the beer, but we just make sure that the beer doesn't stay too sweet. To make sure that the maple syrup is fermented through the fermentation process. We also have a quad, so the Rigor Mortis. It's more like a classic quad, like a dark, strong, Habit style beer. Get really fruity, some resin and plum flavor in it. Another beer that that sit for a while into a cellar. When we brew, actually, we always try to please ourselves first. We are a brewer, but we are also a beer lover. And actually, we still drink a lot of beer from different brewery. And so, main thing is when we develop a recipe, is we have to make sure that we're proud of it and we find it interesting and complex. And if it's the only beer I have in my fridge, I'm going to be happy to drink it. We like sometimes have a really balanced beer and drinkable, and other beer we would like to be super hoppy, and we like sour beer and tart beer, and fruit beer. So we like to have big variation on the kind of beer that we're doing. We always try to have inspiration for a different flavor that is not necessarily that uncommon, but just put a variation in our portfolio. We're slowly growing up our capacity, but we won't do it and make sure that we keep the quality. So that's why we don't double every year, but we make sure that we're gonna send more of our beer in the US to satisfy the people waiting for it.